Vicki, hello, hello. You look fantastic.
Yeah, okay, but you don't remember what I used to look like because you don't remember that you know me, I'm sure, or that you met me.
I don't remember the 80s, so there's a lot of things I don't remember. Let's see. Let's play the game. See how it goes.
So all right, so we're jumping right into it. I want to talk about that because I didn't know for sure until today that you're a sober person.
I am, which is sad. Huh?
How long are you sober, Larry?
33 years.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, but the sad thing is, this is as good as it's gotten. You know, you get everything back. You'll get your family. You'll get your money. No, I'm just not dead. I'm just not dead.
But that's a pretty good thing.
I'll take it. Take it for now. Yeah.
Yeah. Not being dead is a pretty good thing. So what? I know nothing of. I know your career. I know nothing of that story. What? Okay. I want to know it all. But what was your? Did you have a bottom? Why did you stop?
Did I have a bottom? You've heard. Well, let's go to Mamaroneck High School.
Okay.
Did I have no? You mean like the final, the end game?
Yeah, well, like obviously did you ever go on stage loaded?
Yeah. What's the matter with you? Of course.
Of course.
What's the point in drinking and doing drugs if you don't? To sit around the house? I mean, really?
Did you miss gigs?
I never missed a gig, but I got relieved of my duties in Houston when I was so coked up. I did a 45-minute set in 20 minutes. And I'm telling you, I came off and I was fantastic. I said, oh, this is wonderful. And I get to the dressing room and I'm thrilled. I killed. And the owners come back and it's a Saturday. They have 3 shows. I have to turn the house over twice.
Yeah.
And he goes, what are you doing? I said, I killed. He said, you owe me 25 minutes. I said, I'm done. I did the show. They kind of put me on a plane and said, this isn't going to work out. And that was kind of right towards the very end of uh-oh.
Okay, so what was the beginning? When did you know? I didn't know I was an addict till my therapist told me, and I, thought she was full of shit. But she totally ruined my buzz. When did you know that you had a problem?
There was one night in the middle of the winter. I had a friend of mine who was a cocaine dealer, and a friend.
Yeah, and a friend. You weren't using him for his drugs or anything.
No. She was a friend, okay. And a friend means they'll give you an 8-ball of cocaine on the house as long as you keep coming back. So she lived in Brooklyn, and I was living on the Upper East Side of Manhattan at the time. And at like 3 a.m, I had like $9 to my name. Well, I was making a good living, but I had $9 to my name. And I took a subway in the middle of the night to Brooklyn to her house to do drugs and score and come home. And I thought, there's something not right here. This is really not working. That wasn't the bottom, but that was kind of like, oh, something's wrong.
That was like an awareness that something maybe was. Okay, so what year is this approximately when you're figuring this out?
Late 8. I got sober in 89, so February of 89. So it's late 88, somewhere around there.
And so at this time, your career is doing very well. And
it's starting to not. It's really? Starting to not.
How so?
I wouldn't show up for auditions. I mean, I never missed a gig, but I wouldn't go to an audition, or I would show up completely unprepared. And, when the psychological wheel starts spinning, I said, well, if I come in and I'm all screwed up on drugs or alcohol, if it doesn't go well, it's not my fault.
So very wise.
Oh, yes. So I give myself a psychological safety net why I didn't get the job or why I didn't get cast in this. It wasn't my fault. I was drunk.
You had some big gigs while you were loaded?
I did. A lot of it was all during the stand-up time. Mostly during the stand-up time. And it was funny because it was all done in a short period of time. It was like from starting to.
When did you start? What year did you start stand-up?
81.
Wow, you were early. Okay.
No, not real. When did you start coming around the clubs?
Well, I didn't start coming around until I took Gabe's class in 85, and that's when I started doing stand-up. But
85.
I was late, but I was early for a girl, but I was late. Yeah.
Did you find when you were doing that in 85, because at that point, like at Catskills, sister Adrienne Tolsch was kind of the big female comic, rest her soul, and Carol Siskin was doing the improv, and Abby Stein, rest her soul. I can't believe
my God,
losing. We'll have to talk about this. It's unbelievable, and it's always the wrong ones. The good ones don't die. All the the pieces of shit are still rolling around. But we're just like losing people,
I know.
But as a woman at that time, wasn't that difficult?
What it was for me, Larry, I was an actress first, and
Right.
this is an interview of you, not of me, but I'm going to tell this story really quick to you because you don't know it. So I was an actress, and Bob Nelson invited me to join the Laughter Company, and I replaced your Rosie O'Donnell because, as you can tell, Rosie and I are exactly
typecasting.
And but I didn't know what I was doing. And they said to me, don't worry, and it was the group where Eddie Murphy started. And, it was, anyway, they said, don't worry, we got you. We got your back. Meanwhile, I didn't know how to do comedy improv. They said, don't worry, we'll lead you through it. And I was the only one up there that was improvising because they'd been doing these set bits for years. And they would like feed me to the wolves. And Joan St. Ange was the other girl and the other woman.
Was Joan funny?
And Joan is so funny, but Joan hated me because Joan wanted to be the ingenue and I wanted to be the funny. And so it just, we got along great off stage, but on stage, it was like feeding me to the wolf every night. Oh my God. I used to go from Manhattan to Long Island and cry the whole way back. Anyway, then I took Gabe's class to learn how to defend myself. So I wasn't really, I came into stand-up just to learn to defend myself and then had some fun. But, doing it at like, what's that club on 30th Street that Rocco had?
Good Times?
Good Times. I was the MC at Good Times.
Oh my God. I remember, that's the first place I ever played at. Oh my God.
But I stopped really fast because I ended up being a rock and roll. Anyway, my story is not the point. Your story is the point.
Yeah,
so
I have an ingenue story for you.
Good.
It's okay. Has Jimmy Vallely been on your show yet?
Jim and I have been battling this out because he said, I'm not big enough. And I'm like, yes, Jimmy's going to be on it. No, he hasn't yet. He's going to be.
I did it. He's way higher on the food chain than I am. So you tell him I said he should do it.
I love him.
I did some work with Bea Arthur.
Oh.
And Jimmy had worked on Golden Girls.
Right.
And so he told me what to expect. So anyway, so this is my experience, but also Jim told me it was going to happen.
Okay.
Bea Arthur hated Betty White. Hated her.
Oh, wow.
He also used to enjoy a cocktail. So I get to Bea's house the first time. She lives in Brentwood near the Riviera, what do you call it? The country club.
Yeah.
Go to the house and she's there and she's cooking for her dog. So already I liked her. And we're getting to know each other and she's fine. And she goes, all right, Larry, I'm going to make lunch. And here's what's going to happen, sweetheart. What is language? Am I under any language constraints here?
Fuck no problem.
Atta girl. Okay, so she goes.
Although I heard your Joan Rivers story about in real life, she didn't curse, but I am fine now.
But she did. So she goes, I'm going to make lunch. And she said, we're going to have lunch, continue getting to know each other. And during lunch,
drinking at this point?
It's lunchtime.
Are you still drinking at this point?
No.
No. Okay.
No. So we're sitting and she goes, I'm going to have a couple of vodka tonics with lunch. She said, when I have the fourth one, I'm going to bang a glass on the table and I want you to say Betty White. All right, fine. So we're sitting, we're getting to know her. Then 1, 2, 3. She goes, the fourth one, she goes, I go, Betty White. She goes, that cunt. She thinks she's an ingenue. If she didn't think she was such an ingenue, we'd still be doing Golden Girls. No, Little Miss fucking Hot Pants. And she went off. I am telling you, in my life.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, what do you say? I'm just going, oh, that's interesting. What do you say? You have Bea Arthur sitting there telling you Betty White's a cunt.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a day. That was a day.
That's a good story.
You're welcome.
So, all right. So,
Oh, I have another story. This is
oh, give me stories.
germane to nothing. I worked on the Espy Awards for about 10 years because, I'm a lesbian. So I worked on the Espy Awards.
Yeah, you know so much about sports.
I do. It's scary. I am telling you.
Okay, do you?
I'm a huge sports fan.
Okay, because
I used to play hockey. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because someone very close to me who is gay also knows everything about sports.
Ooh.
So all of that is
Oh, you
bullshit.
can't talk.
I told you that earlier.
Right.
Anyway,
Okay. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm a huge sports fan. So one year, every year on the Espys, they have this, like most awards shows, I have a contrived heartfelt moment. Let's bring them to tears and some emotional family Americana bullshit thing. So there's some kid, some 14, 15-year-old kid, whose name I don't want to give out, but anyway, they thought he was somewhere on the spectrum.
Okay.
And he was like the water boy for the football team, his high school football team, or junior high school, whatever it was.
Right.
And the last game of the season, he's going to graduate.
Yeah.
2 coaches have a game, and his coach went to the other coach and said, "Look, if the game's out of hand, we're going to put the kid in, let him score a touchdown. We're going to put him in a uniform today for the first time. The kid's a water boy. He's
Right.
going to do a house plant." So, okay, fine. So sure enough, the game's out of hand. They put the kid in. It's very touching. It's on film. And the other team pretends they're going to try to tackle him, and he runs the end zone, and he's thrilled, and his parents are crying, and there's audience shout. And so they roll this out at the Espy Awards. They're giving him a special award, and they show this film, and they explain, and there's not a dry eye in the house. Ladies and gentlemen, and the kid comes out. Well, apparently nobody checked how well the child spoke. They hadn't actually pre-interviewed him. They also didn't know he has a less than mild case of Tourette's. So they hand this kid the award, and they say, "Congratulations." So like, fuck me, eat me, fuck me. And they don't know what to do. They don't know what to do. And I'm standing with the other writers.
This is on the live Espys?
Yeah. They had a cut. We went to tape delay the next year. And everyone backstage is horrified, except of course the writers were having a fine time. And one of the execs at ESPN is standing up, and he goes, "Go on stage, you gotta go get him." I said, "You get him, it's your network." So that is now, they went to tape next year.
Oh my God.
Because nobody checked whether this little boy could talk.
Oh my Lord.
It was something to watch. In the Kodak Theater, sold out, all these big star athletes, and this kid.
Oh my
wonderful.
Lord.
It was wonderful.
All right, so we're going to forget the sober thing. We're going to come back to it. But by the way, Scott Krantz is on here, and Scott, I love you. And
Hi, Scott.
Scott and I worked together in a rock club years ago, and I ran True Blue on the Upper East Side, and so Scott ran sound there. But I also knew Scott because I used to do sets at Stand Up New York, and Scott was the bartender there. Yeah.
Absolutely, I love Scott.
But Scott told me that, not only are you the funniest human, which we know is true, except I'm going to say that you are the funniest. Well, do I have to do like gender fluid, like?
I don't understand.
And say they? I don't even know what they means.
No, it's very confusing.
I was going to say you're the funniest guy, and Paula Poundstone is the funniest woman that I know in this planet. But anyway, so Scott said, though, that not only you being the funniest, but also that you really helped him when he was getting sober. And I'm crying because you made me laugh, but I'm also crying because it really moves me that you did that. So I do want to get back to that. So,
okay, go ahead.
So when did you start using, Larry? And what was your drug of choice?
Well, my drug of choice is whatever you happen to have. If you had it, it was mine. I love Southern Comfort and cocaine. I thought it was like, the breakfast of champions.
Wonderful combo.
That was because the thing is, I don't like the taste of alcohol. I never did.
Me either.
Disgusting. But Southern Comfort is very sugary. It's like a popsicle. You can freeze the thing. So it didn't bother me that much.
Mm-hmm.
And because it had such a sugar kick, by the third one, I could feel the train pulling to the crazy station. It was
how did you drink it?
Straight.
Not even rocks?
Sometimes.
Wow.
It depends how desperately I needed it.
So, and do you remember, like, I remember my first drink. Do you remember your first drink?
No. No, I remember my first line of cocaine.
You do. And was that life-changing?
Not the first one, no. By the 11,000th, it was quite interesting. A friend of mine, we went to, so that sounds like a bad name drop, but we went to Studio 54 late one night after the
Hey, yeah.
back in the day. So, and she had some blow on her, and she said, you want to do some blow? And I said, I'd never done any.
Wait, you went with who? I missed who you went with.
A friend of mine who works at
I thought you were dropping a name. I'm waiting for the name drop. Okay.
Studio 54.
Studio 54 was the drop. Okay.
I could give you other drops when we're off the air.
Okay.
Because Daddy doesn't want to have any problems.
Too late. Well, I guess Bea's already dead, so we don't have to worry about that.
He's dead. Okay. So we went into a little back room and I did a couple lines. It didn't really do anything. But the second or third time, I started getting the kick of it. I tell people proudly, I used to say proudly, that I snorted blow off the toilet in Studio 54.
Well,
and I snorted blow off the guy sitting on the toilet in Studio 54.
No, sorry.
I was just setting you up. I was getting there. But that was the start of it.
Okay, so that's already
early,
late 70s was for me cocaine. You started in the early
80s.
Okay, so you were also just starting stand-up at the same time.
Right. I was actually technically what you'd say was like a nice Jewish boy from Long Island, never did anything wrong, never drank, never did anything. I'm in the city on my own. I quit my job. I'm doing stand-up now. And all of a sudden, it's a very different world than I knew. In a lot of ways,
Were you making enough money right away to quit your job and live in the city?
I had put a little money away, and I caught a very odd break. About 7 or 8 months after I started, this guy named Flip Connell, who I owe a lot to. Flip was scouting for HBO for Young Comedian Special.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd literally been in the business 6 months, maybe 7, barely getting on stage. I was the new kid on, and he saw something.
Wow.
And he booked me on the show.
Wow.
And it was,
those were huge.
Back in the day, yeah.
It was Sam Kinison, it was Hal Roseanne, it was Bob Nelson was on the one with them. That broke a lot. They broke a lot of comics on.
I was on the one with Stephen Wright.
Oh my God.
And Schmuck and Valley, Jimmy Valley.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And Michael McDonald. And Alan King was the host.
Wow.
It was a big deal.
Wow.
And I didn't really know what I was doing. I had a very little bit of material. Like
how much did you had your, was it 5? Did you get 5 on that show?
You had to do 6. They're going to narrow it. I think you had to prepare 6. They edited it down to 4.5 or whatever.
Right.
But we filmed 2 back, 2 in the same night, and they edit them together. I did very well. I had good sets. And all of a sudden,
Did you do crowd work when you did?
No, I'll tell you how that started. Okay. I will tell you how that started. Yeah. And if this is before the days of Roseanne.
By the way, Leland Sklar, who I was talking to you about before, is on here, and he said, "This is great."
Thank you. Hello, Leland.
Okay, sorry to ruin your story.
So in those days, it's before they gave sitcoms, before Roseanne and stuff. You basically go out on the road. You did a TV gig, and suddenly I'm booked headlining clubs around the country.
Wow.
I have 6 months of experience and 9
Wait,
minutes.
how much? I was going to say how much material.
And 9 minutes. I don't know anything. And all of a sudden you have to do 45. Well, what am I going to do for 40 minutes?
No, come on. You're really getting headlining gigs and you don't have a 45-minute set?
I finally put together about 20. No, I did not. And I figured I better learn. So I'm starting to fill time spritzing, just talking to an audience. Now, fortunately, and I am not
good. Fortunately, you're brilliant at it.
I was really good at it. I was really good at it.
Yes, you are.
And I have like no self-esteem whatsoever. However, I was good at that. I was really good at that.
Yes.
So I could talk to some, and not just the usual, where are you from, what do you do? I could really craft a conversation.
Yes.
And in my heyday, when I tell my friends, in my heyday, I could talk to literally 300 different people in the audience, remember everything, everybody, and tie it all together.
Wait a minute. You're drinking and using it this time.
Not yet.
Okay.
Not heavily.
Okay.
So I'm learning, and as this goes on, I'd start writing on stage. I'd stumble into something, You talk to somebody.
Did you tape your sets? How would you remember what you came upon?
I carry a little pad in my, it became almost like a neurotic superstition. But I had like a little pad and paper, and I'd stop and say, wait, that's going to be something. And I would stop. It's like,
stage?
Yeah. It's like, it's funny because in those days, like one of my best friends to this day is Rita Rudner. And
I love Rita. She's
brilliant and the most disciplined performer I've ever seen. And,
really?
Mm-hmm. And, she'd come to the club every night before she'd go on, is this funny? Is this funny? Is this? And she'd be sitting at the bar writing new jokes before she went on.
Wow.
And if I come off, she'd say, that thing you said, write that down. Write that down.
Wow.
Okay. And she said, work on that.
Wow. Brilliant. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because is Rita fantastic.
She was one of my favorites from the early days. And I haven't seen Rita perform in a long time. I would love to.
Oh, she does a lot of private corporate stuff, a lot of benefits. She does a lot of acting and playwriting with her husband, Martin. They've had a great career punching up movies and selling, enormously successful and fantastic.
She was always wildly funny. And she was a pioneer for women.
She was.
Yeah.
She was, because Rita would come in, these clubs, they're seedy, they're not dirty, but I mean they're clubs, they're bars. And she'd come in a fucking ball gown. Because that's what it was. She'd come in with jewelry and a gown and do her and my mother, and everyone's going, well, where's the broad who's farting? And we go, oh no, this is Rita. This is different. And she's just true to herself the whole time.
Well, Scott just said you were great at guessing people's jobs. What's that about? How did you do that?
I don't know. Really, Scott?
That's what he's saying. I don't know.
I was good at it. I don't know. I would look at them, what they were wearing, who they were with, where they were from, and what their posture was like. So let's see, you see a couple, middle-aged white couple, right? He's a little balding. Okay, fine. So he's not doing something, he's pale. So he's not doing anything outdoors. We know that. Right. She's doing most of the talking, which means he's married for a long time. Right? So and then you see how he's sitting like this. So now he has some kind of a desk job. If the couple, if you see them together, if one of them is much better looking than the other, the ugly one has a good job and money. And you start piecing it together. I just think, you figure that out. You figure it out.
Okay, my father was a master of ceremonies in the Catskills.
I know.
Do you know that?
Yes, and I was the whole Tumla thing, the whole MC. We used to go to the Homowack Lodge.
Oh my God! Of course, we used to play you against in volleyball.
Yes, my grandparents used to go to the Homowack for vacation, and I'll never forget. The Homowack. It was be nice, a Homowack tradition. The owner, Mrs. Blickstein, a cunt to the moon, awful, and they had such a bad design technique. The emerald wing, the carpet was red, and you'd say, Mrs. Blickstein, this is not happening. The guy who ran, I don't know how I'm getting into this. There was a guy who ran like the gift shop named Uncle Howie. Uncle Howie must have been 100 years old back then and had a stutter. And he'd come into the cafeteria every day, into the little, for lunch.
Right.
And he'd always
the dining
room. Sorry, the dining room. And he would always order sponge cake for dessert every single day. And being the horrible people we were, he'd say, Uncle Howie, I'd like some. He couldn't get sponge cake out of his mouth. So all this time I'm working there as like a waiter at Christmas, and you hear all the other waiters going.
Oh my God.
He's dead. It doesn't matter. But
So I grew up watching those comics. So as a kid, are you watching those Borscht Belt comics?
Oh my God. Tell me if I'm wrong. Was Mel Z Lawrence not one of the funniest men who ever lived?
The funniest. Mel Z, there was nobody funnier in the Catskills than Mel Z. Yep.
He was interviewed once. It could have been at the Friars. I don't know. He was interviewed. And someone came up to me and said, Mel Z, how come you're not more successful? And he said, well, I've got a house in New York. I've got a house in Florida. I've got a boat. I put 2 kids through college. I think I'm pretty successful.
Good for him.
And good for him.
Good for him.
He wasn't looking to be the billionaire with the plane. He had the life he wanted.
Right.
And funny as the day is long.
Oh my God. A comedian's comedian. I mean, everyone would come in, you know, in the Catskills, everyone would come into the back of the room.
Where was your dad? Where did your dad MC?
So he was at a place called the Plaza first. You're too young. That was in South Fallsburg, then in the El Dorado, but we were at Green Acres and Loch Sheldrake for the majority of the time.
Loch Sheldrake, Browns.
Right down the road.
Right, yes. I know where it is.
Right down the road. So my father introduced everybody. So that was growing up with that. I mean, we grew up with that. That was comedy. You know, you talk about Alan King. Alan King was like God back then, right? But you know, Freddie Roman and Jackie Mason and
Dick Capri, the whole
Dick Capri. You talked about Dick Lloyd. You took comedy with Dick Lloyd, right?
I took class from Dick.
I mean, you know, all of these people were just so. All right, when did you? So
Corbett
did you?
Monica. Do you remember Corbett Monica?
I loved Corbett Monica. London Lee. Do you remember London Lee?
Poor little rich kid.
Poor little rich kid. So you loved it. You had to have loved. You had to be funny when you were a little kid, though. This had to be organic for you.
My mother was very funny.
Really?
A horrible human being, a terrible mother, a drug addict, violent, and drank a lot, mentally ill, but really funny. But really, really funny.
Did she know she was funny?
She and her friend, her neighbor, Sandy Barnett, they'd be downstairs having coffee, and my brother and I would be on the steps just listening because it was just fun. And it was that kind of Irma Bombeck meets Joan Rivers meets Toady Fields kind of fun. And it just went on and on. She was brilliant.
Wow.
Everything else about her was horrendous, but I got that from her.
And so when did you start using it? When did you? Oh, Glenn Farrington is here.
Hi, Glenn. Oh my God, I haven't seen Glenn in a billion years.
When did you say, okay, when did you start using it? Were you a little kid in school? Did it get you out of trouble? I mean,
as a defense mechanism. As a defense mechanism, I was kind of I wouldn't say picked on. I was kind of a misfit. You know, it was like I was uncomfortable at home. I was uncomfortable with school. I was uncomfortable in my own skin. And I would learn to make a joke at my own expense before someone else got there.
When did you know you were gay?
Tuesday, about 4-ish. 4:30? No, someone once asked me that once. They said, when did you know you were gay? I said, well, I was blowing this guy. I said, wait a minute. This doesn't seem right. I am sure this isn't Susan. I don't know. I don't have a definitive.
When you were a little kid, did you feel something was different about you? Or did you have crushes on girls when you were little? You did. Okay.
But I also wore a poodle skirt. So go figure. Maybe I was a lesbian.
Oh my God. Okay, so you didn't get picked on around that.
No, but I just didn't fit in. I was one of those kids, like a lot of comics I think are, just didn't fit in anywhere, you know? And I'm trying to remember who I just heard. Oh, someone was just some celebrity. I can't remember, who was talking about not fitting in and just finally had to learn to embrace who they were. And just being different and not fitting in is a good thing. And it took me all through drinking and drugs to get to that.
So were you the kid? Were you the funny kid in class? Were you the class clown? Were you using your humor there?
Not until I got to college.
Oh, okay.
I was very when I was in school, I played a lot of hockey, so I didn't have to really talk to anybody. And when I was in elementary school, I was because there was so much trouble at home, I was kind of a nervous kid. I was, blinking and twitching and frightened and, like that. So I kind of didn't have a whole social circle there. I had nobody to really talk to. So when I went away to college, I finally, for some reason, I just opened up.
Did you do plays in school and stuff like that?
No, I did a camp play. I did 2 plays in camp. One was A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum.
Oh my God, perfect for you.
Yeah, and I did when I was junior high. We did Oliver. Although,
what were you in Oliver?
The Artful Dodger.
I saw it on Broadway with Davy Jones as the Artful Dodger, my first Broadway show. Oh my God.
That was your first Broadway show?
It was my first Broadway show.
My first Broadway show was Your Arms Too Short to Box with God by Melvin Van Peebles.
That's a heavy show to start with.
It was school. They took us there. We didn't know.
Wow.
You have a bunch of like 12-year-old white kids watching this, not knowing what the fuck they're talking about, but it was Broadway. You know, it was Broadway.
Yeah, and that's pretty lofty for a bunch of kids.
Yeah, that's pretty lofty. I had a theater story.
Glenn just said there was literally no one as good as Larry when it came to working a crowd. No one.
Thank you, Glenn.
Only comic I would always watch instead of hanging out in the green room or at the bar, because every single set was different and hysterical.
Coming from Glenn, that's pretty flattering, because he's a pretty talented, funny guy.
He's a pretty funny guy.
A very funny guy. Yeah. Wow, that's nice.
You were just going to tell me a story and I interrupted you with that.
I know, and I can't remember, because this is what happens when you get old.
Yeah, Paul Williams has a thing where he says 12 seconds and I ain't waiting. And so you just you just go, but you know what? It comes back. If you let it go, it comes back.
I know, but I told you when I first moved to Palm Springs 2 years ago, I'm like the youngest person here. I'm like a Twinkie. You have no idea. I tell my friends, I go, at Palm Springs High School, the seniors really are seniors. I mean, everybody here is like 1,000 years old. You know, the Uber has like a siren on the roof. It's an ambulance, and so
I told you I heard your Palm Springs thing on another. You have to say it.
I refer to Palm Springs. It's gay hospice, where all the old queens come to die. If you see a Hawaiian shirt on the sidewalk and there's a body in it, he died. It's not just he's dead. But I love it here.
Okay, so you do. Why did you move to Palm Springs?
All my friends came here.
Yeah.
And the other reason is this is the name drop, but I work with Barry Manilow and I have for a very long time, and he lives here. So I was commuting from like Orange County to LA. It was a big drive.
A big drive. My mother lived in Palm Springs. She had a house in Palm Springs for 20 years, 2 blocks from Barry, and we speed walked past Barry's house every morning. I used to go for a month every January.
Really?
Barry was legend then. Well, he's been a legend forever, but we used to walk by and hope we'd catch him. We never did. But
no, he's great. And I mean, I've been working with him forever. And
so let's talk about that. How did that happen?
He was looking for I'd say a writer, but the thing with Barry, and I guess a lot of the people that I work with, I like to collaborate. I'm much better talking to someone and bouncing back and forth.
I love that.
As opposed to just sitting there, no. So he was looking for a writer, and he saw one of my tapes on one of the Evening at the Improv or one of Rosie O'Donnell's my stand-up tapes. And he said he saw the opening joke and he said, find him.
What was the joke?
The joke was, I'm sorry, I'm late. I just had major surgery. I had my mother removed from my back. And he said, find him. Because it's the sensibility. It was the same sensibility.
Tell us how you got to, we're going to come back to Joan, but just tell us what got you the gig with Joan.
It's circuitous.
Okay.
When I first started doing stand-up, I started just writing. I wanted to be a writer. And Joan would I didn't know her. She would buy jokes from people, send fax jokes to her office.
Right.
And if they liked a joke, they'd send you $10 or some little. And I did that in the beginning. And then I went into stand-up. I said, I can make more doing it on my own.
Oh, you started as a comedy writer? You started?
I didn't want to perform. I wanted to just write.
Really?
I kind of fell into it. It was
all right. So wait, tell me that. How did you fall into that?
A friend of mine I went to college with said, do you want to take a comedy writing class? So I said, okay. That Dick Lord, we talked about from the Catskills. So I took this writing class for comedy.
Well, what were you doing at the time?
I had a job in public relations for an architect.
And what did you think you were going to do at that time? Is that what did you want to do at that point?
I had no goals whatsoever. No ambition, no goals. I just didn't want to die. My goal was leave the house, don't get killed, come home. So I had no plans, literally no plans. I still don't. I still have no goals, except don't die. So a friend of mine who took this class with me said, let's go audition. They taught us how to write stand-up. So we called Catch Rising Star, and they said you put together like a 5-minute set. And on Monday night is audition night, and you go and you stand in the street with 50 other people, and they'll give out 10 numbers. The rest will be blanks. And if you get a number, that's the number you go on that night. And it was mixed in with all the regulars. So in those days, it was Jerry Seinfeld. I mean, it was they were big names already.
Sure. Richard
Belzer was the MC, Bill Maher. They were already there.
Right.
So I got number 3. I picked number 3 out of a hat. And then, as I've mentioned, the guy who got number 2 got hit by a car, so I moved up a notch. Lucky me, huh? Silver lining. So I did my audition. It was Monday night was a big deal, and it was packed. It was packed.
Okay, wait a minute. Before you get to this, you wrote some jokes. You thought you were going to
put together a 5-minute bit.
Okay.
5-minute routine.
And did you know how to write a joke before you went into Dick Lord's class?
I didn't know how to structurally write a joke, but I knew how to basically go from point A to point B to point C.
Okay.
And the routine, as best I can remember, was about.
I was going to say, give me a piece.
It was just about Miss Subways. There was a Miss Subways pageant in New York. They used to have Miss Subways.
I remember.
And I knew one of them. I knew a girl who had been Miss Subways. And it's like, these are the girls who weren't good enough to be Miss Gimbals or Miss, you're moving down the food chain of beauty. It's like she has a weak chin, but she's pleasant. So they make her a beauty pageant. So I wrote a bit about Miss Subways. I can't remember exactly how it went. It was that she took it very personally, and her whole house looked like a subway station. In the bathroom, there's a turnstile, old man loitering in the corner, like that, like the usual kind of structure stuff. But it was a full house that night, and I remember getting lost halfway through my set. I got confused, so I just started talking to somebody in the audience.
Oh wow!
Wow! And it went very, very well.
Wow. Did you know you could do that until it happened? No. Or you just panicked?
I didn't know what to do. I couldn't remember
what to do.
And I got very lucky that night that Adrienne Tolsch was emceeing. Because she kind of got me where a lot of other people would not have.
Wow.
And she passed me in the audition and had Rick Newman take a look at me and other people as well. And they said, start hanging out. So I started hanging out at the club. And a couple of months later, I decided I had like 6 months worth of money put away, and I decided to quit my job and give it a shot. And a month after that, I got the HBO special.
That is just an unbelievable string of you are meant to do this.
I think so, until I found it up, but
Well, but that led you to the next thing.
Everything. It's like we always say, you're where you're supposed to be. There was a woman in one of my program meetings who's no longer with us. And she was sober like 1,400 years. I mean, she's like the oldest human being I'd ever met. Like her doctor was Dr. Leakey. I mean, she was that old. But she had this great expression. I saw her speak once. I knew her from Laguna Beach when I was living down there. And I had moved up to Toluca Lake in LA. And I was at a big meeting on Colfax and, oh God, you know where it is.
I've been there.
A speaker meeting. It's a big speaker. So I'm sitting there. And she comes up and she's dragging oxygen tank with her.
Oh my.
And had the little, and mind you, we're 85 miles from Laguna. And she goes, Patty, people are saying to me, Patty, why did you drag yourself 85 miles on a Saturday night with an oxygen tank to speak at a meeting? And she said, well, if I was supposed to be somewhere else, I would be there. And if I was supposed to be doing something else, I'd be doing it. I was like, got it. That's all I needed to hear. Got it. So wherever I am now, wherever you are now, is where we're supposed to be.
Absolutely.
And doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Absolutely.
It's so funny. I mean, we're sitting here having a fun time on a podcast, but if people are listening or laughing or getting something out of it, we're being of service to people.
Which they are.
I'm just saying, not just laughter,
right, but
even the serious conversation. If somebody takes something away from that, we'd help somebody inadvertently.
Absolutely.
Which is a good thing.
And I know it's something that you do take seriously because I know you helped Scott, helped him find his way.
We just share what's been given to us so freely.
So, okay, so let's go back to the bottom. So what was the bottom of the bottom that got you to put down the drink and the drug?
It is easy. It's a story I've told a million times in meetings and stuff. It was February 20th.
Wow, that's specific. That's my daughter's birthday. Yes.
See? Well, I have an anniversary coming up in 2 weeks.
Yay. How many years?
34. Been a long time. Hopefully I'll get there now, if I don't do something
one
stupid.
day at a time.
Yeah, thank you. Let's say for tonight I'll be all right. I had gone, I tell people it was a party, but it wasn't a party. It was some drug dealer I knew on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And I lived on the East Side. It was cold, it was rainy, it was February. So I get there and I remember getting there. And the next thing I remember, it's the only time I ever blacked out. I woke up on a subway in the Bronx.
Oh my.
At a place called Mosholu Parkway.
Mosholu Parkway, sure.
I still don't know where this is. And I wake up and I just remember I'm in the same outfit. And I see the guy sitting next to me has the Sunday New York Times. And I immediately thought, well, he must be important. He must know people. He got the Sunday Times on a Friday night. Let's say hello. Maybe he can help me.
Wow, you were passed out. You lost all of Saturday. Wow.
And I just said, how did you get the Sunday Times on Friday? And he goes, it's Sunday night. And he got up and moved.
Oh,
and we talk about that moment of clarity. It's like, oh my Lord.
You had really never you had never blacked out before? I never blacked out. I don't really understand the whole thing.
No, I never really blacked out. There's a lot of things I don't remember or I don't have,
right.
I wasn't blacked out, but I was completely not present. And I went to a phone booth, got out of before cell phones.
Right.
And I called one of my neighbors who had an emergency kit in my apartment, like in New York, like you do.
Right.
And I said, I'm in the Bronx. I said, this is where I'm in the corner of Mosholu, whatever it is.
Mosholu Park. I'm a Bronx girl. We say
Moshula. Yeah. So he came and got me and brought me home, drove up, and he said, I'm going to knock on your door tomorrow morning about 10 o'clock. Be dressed and ready. I don't know anything. Turns out he was in the program. I had no idea.
Get out of here. The person you call is in program and you didn't even know it.
By chance.
Wow.
As we would say.
Wow.
So he takes me to a meeting, and I've told the story in meetings a million times. And it's the first meeting I go to at the Janhu's Playhouse on 74th and 1st, in this little church. And it's an 11 o'clock in the morning meeting, and it's a bunch of little old ladies. Looks like a quilting bee. I mean, it really does. And I'm like, what am I doing in here? And the lady who's leading the meeting starts telling, a little old lady tells a story about how she and her husband were in a drunken brawl, and she stabbed him to death and went to jail for 28 years.
No.
First meeting I ever went to.
Holy shit.
Caught my attention. Woke me up in a hurry.
But did that make you think, oh, well, I don't belong here because I didn't kill anybody?
No, actually it didn't. It made me think this could have been a lot worse. I just fell asleep on a train. This really could have gotten out of hand.
And actually you didn't know what you did between Friday night and Sunday night, right? You could have killed her husband on the thing and you wouldn't have.
I feel a sitcom coming up.
I mean, you don't know what you did. Who knows?
Nanny and the perpetrator. Oh my God. No, you're right. I assume I just slept because I was in the same clothes. And I had not soiled myself, which is quite.
And there was no blood on you. So that's a pretty.
No blood, no piss, nothing. That was that.
So, okay. So it took from the first meeting?
No, I've never relapsed or slipped or anything like that. In the beginning, I would just go to a lot of meetings. I didn't get a sponsor right away. I was afraid to do anything. I would just sit in the back and listen. But as long as I was in meetings, I wasn't going to go drinking or using cocaine.
Right.
So I did that. I go to 3-4 meetings a day. I had nothing else to do.
Did you have, you must have had withdrawal if you were, no, you didn't. Okay.
Nope. And when I went into the club, like a Cat's Rising Star, I told them, I'm getting sober. Please don't serve me anything. If I ask for anything, don't give it to me.
Good one.
Because if I become unruly, throw me out. But I never asked. Nobody ever had to do that. I think I was just frightened by that experience.
Were you cranky? I was very cranky when I stopped.
Were you?
I stopped. Yes, I was a pothead, and when I stopped smoking pot, I was not a happy girl. Oh no.
No. Well, see, here's the thing. It's like, I'm not a morning person to begin with.
Right.
But it turns out I'm not an afternoon person or an evening person either. I have like 20 good minutes a day. So those 20 minutes I might have ruined. I don't recall being cranky. When I was doing all the drugs and the alcohol, I had gotten, as one of my managers said, you were funny, but you had a nasty edge. Mm-hmm. And there's a difference between being edgy and being mean. Mm-hmm. I was kind of crossing that line. I was walking that line. And once I cleaned myself up, my humor, I still think I was funny, but that part was gone. The mean was gone. I could still be cunty as anybody, but not, the difference. I know
the difference. So let's talk about Joan now, because she walked that fine line
unbelievably,
brilliantly. And a lot of people said, "Oh, she's mean," but it never felt mean to me. One of my favorites was Elizabeth Taylor goes over to the microwave and screams, "Hurry!" I mean, she had her stuff, right? But it wasn't mean-spirited. It was
ridiculous.
Yeah.
In a way, because what Joan was doing was, as every stand-up, every actress knows, it's a character.
Right.
Even your stand-up is a character.
Right.
Even Gilbert Gottfried, rest his soul. Gilbert was the sweetest man in the world. You watch that on saying, Gilbert was a doll. Yeah. He was a nice, sweet guy, Joan was not like that at home. She was funny, but at home, Joan was elegant and she was a lady and there was no potty talk. None of that. It's a character. It's an act. It's like, you ever see when we see the puppet acts?
Sure.
And the puppet's always got the foul mouth. Jeff Dunham's a good guy. What? Don't talk that way to these people. Oh, fuck them. It's like animation.
What's the famous one? Otto and George, right?
Otto and George. Man, were they funny. Were they funny? I'm talking like it's two people. They were great. Otto was great. Yeah. But the puppet is the dirty one.
Right.
Which it's the same reason like animation, why an animated character can get away with something a human can't, because it's a cartoon.
Right.
Joan's character was kind of a cartoon.
I see. That makes sense.
If you exaggerate it broadly, no mother's really going to tell her daughter to go turn a trick for $9. Joan was telling Melissa, she's kidding. It's a cartoon.
Did you ever give anything to Joan that she said, "Oh no," or did she ever say anything that you thought, "Oh no, that's going too far"? Did you guys ever think the other one went too far?
No. There was only one joke in one of our books that she couldn't do, that she said, "I can't do it," just because she was friendly, had done a benefit for the woman's child recently. And she said, "I can't do that. I just did a benefit, a big fundraiser. I just can't do it." But it was not a terrible joke, whatever it was, but she couldn't do it. No, when I met Joan at the Kennedy Center, I was working on the Mark Twain.
We started to talk about this.
Right. Yes. I was working on the Mark Twain Prize, and it was the year George Carlin got the award posthumously. And I have a story about him too. So Joan needed a writer when she got to Washington. So they set us up together, and I said, I used to write jokes. So she just looked at me, she goes, "What makes you laugh?" I said, "The folly of the Holocaust." She goes, "What's your phone number?" So we started kibitzing back and forth right away. And she goes, "I want you to write with me." I said, "Okay." I said, "Is anything off limits?" She goes, "No." I said, "What about Edgar's suicide?" She goes, "I had 20 minutes before they closed the box." So I'm going to love this one. We're going to have fun. And we had fun. We had fun.
Oh my God. All right. So let's talk about Joan. So
she was great. Just great.
Well, did you have a collaboration? Did you write together? Did you feed her jokes? How did that work?
All of that. Mm-hmm. All of that. If I had ideas for her act, I would just send material over. I'd call the office. Right. I'm sending some. You facts to Joan. She was living in 1967. All right, I'm sending stuff over. When we'd work on books together, we'd get on the phone and have a conversation. What's this going to be about? And ideas back and forth. And I would usually take the first pass at it. And I'd send her 20 pages, and she'd send them back with notes. Not a lot of notes, but always great notes.
So those books, you really wrote those books?
No, everything's a collaboration. Everything's a collaboration. Okay. Mm-hmm. With Melissa, it's a far more of a collaboration. But she and I work together because we're kind of 50-50 on that. And Melissa is so not what people think. She's funny.
Is she funny? I was just going to say, is she funny?
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think of her as funny.
No, she's more sardonic. It's a very different sensibility. She's funny. She's smart. She is really nice.
Oh, good to know.
Melissa's great. She's
good to know.
She's great. But Joan was, it was fun because I'd want to write something about Anne Frank. I never had to say, "Is this okay?" I knew it.
Give us an Anne Frank joke.
Oh God, we had stuff about how she was a terrible attitude. She was always whining, "I have to go to Auschwitz. I have to go to Auschwitz." No, you get to go to Auschwitz. Turn that frown upside down. No one likes a whiner. I mean, you can't really do that anywhere, but Joan could.
Oh my God, that's balls to the walls, boy. Yeah. Is that balls to the walls?
We have a thing in one of the books about, I think it's Diary of a Mad Diva, where it was a diary, it was like calendar entries, November 22nd, and she was saying the day Kennedy was killed. She said, "I can't believe this day. I'm sitting here having coffee with Lee Harvey Oswald. All of a sudden, he gets up and runs out. I have to go. I have to go. I'm so disgusted with what happened. He left me with the check." That's, you make the turn. So is that kind of stuff.
My Lord, how fun is that? Okay, so you have a real job, like a job. You go, you take a class, you learn how to write a joke, you start doing your own stand-up. You get MCs. Well, no, not an MC right away. But you're getting spots at Catch. Right. You're getting the Young Comedian Special. Does the Young Comedian Special open like crazy doors for you? Yes, because
it did. I'm going on the road.
You're going on the road, and you did like the condos, and you did all that.
That's when I had to stop, because that's when I started getting heavily involved in drinking and drugs. Because again, it's not like you're putting, and when you go out on the road, you don't know who you're booked with. They just have two other people.
Right.
You may not know them, you may not like them, they may not like you. And for someone like me, who internally was, like I said, I was a misfit and very uncomfortable in my own skin. It's hard enough getting up on a stage in front of strangers. Now I'm with people I don't know, and I assume they don't like me. So
So these aren't guys. So they're not. Sometimes they're guys that you know from New York.
Sometimes,
yeah.
But still, you're on the road and you're doing on a Thursday night. You're working for 45 minutes, which leaves you 23 hours, 15 minutes to get in trouble, or do nothing, or get depressed, or all of the above.
Yeah.
And it was just, I realized I'm going to get killed. I'm going to die out here. I was sitting alone one night in a condo. I can't remember if it was Oklahoma or Indiana, somewhere, by myself. And it was a blizzard, so the show was canceled. The other two acts were local or whatever. I am alone in a condo in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in the middle of a field in a blizzard by myself, with nothing to do but drink.
Yeah.
So I did.
Recipe for disaster.
It was a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. So
I went back to writing, which was my first love.
Okay, so how did you transition out of stand-up now, and how did you start getting? What was your first writing gig after you?
Oh gosh, I don't know that I know. I don't know that I know, Vicki.
Okay, so one of your early jobs, so as you're transitioning into because Gabe was like faxing, right? He'd fax to Politically Incorrect, he'd fax to Letterman, all that kind of.
Right.
So did you start doing that when you started writing? What did you start doing? Or did you get a job right away? You didn't have
I started getting I'd say private jobs with somebody who would see me at the clubs at Catch working.
Right.
They drop my name. He needs me to help you write a speech, that kind of thing.
Okay.
I do private, not corporate stuff. Somebody can you write remarks for my husband? He's at a bar mitzvah. We'll give you $5,000. He has to do 10, whatever.
Right.
And I'm doing that kind of stuff, just in-house kind of stuff.
And people were dropping your name, and so one job was leading to another job. And what was your first TV job, writing job?
I think it was a pilot for Joy Behar years ago. They came in and they were doing a bunch of pilots. Bill Boggs did one. Joy did one. I can't remember who did the others. I can't remember. but one thing leads to another, and then all of a sudden I'm doing this award show, then I'm doing the Espy award show, then I'm doing that, then I'm doing an honorarium and that sort of stuff, like a lot of one-offs and events.
And so being a head writer for Joy Behar, how are you collaborative? Were you collaborative with Joy?
Oh yeah, Joy and I have been friends for 40 years. Was it that long? Oh my God. Yeah, we've been friends a long time. Yeah, I mean, we've done a book together.
Easy shorthand for the two of you?
Yeah, we speak in shorthand.
When I auditioned at Catch, Joy was sitting at the bar and was gorgeous to me for the 2, 4, 6 hours I waited. And she was lovely. Yeah, that was the first time I met her.
Great. She's a mensch.
Yeah.
She's a mensch. So the thing about Joy is she's never, it's funny, a lot of the women, more so than the men, the women tend not to be competitive with each other. At least not in my experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they weren't, Rita Rudner was not a competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Joy was not competitive. Susie Essman was not competitive. Right. They do what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And
they're also completely unique. That
every one of them, they're all different.
Mm-hmm.
And they had their own voice. Mm-hmm. You know, whereas the guys will cut each other's balls off to get ahead. You know, no problem. And it wasn't like that, you know, it was just interesting.
How about working for Rosie? What was that like?
She's great. I can't believe that show went from 0 to a hit in 30 minutes. She was so good.
Yeah.
You know, it's a brand new show. She's changing the face of daytime TV.
She did.
And you've gone, how the fuck? She was just that good. She was, what people don't realize about Rosie is she's really smart. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Rosie was great. Rosie was, I mean, she literally changed the dynamic of television.
Mm-hmm. She did.
You know, and when Joy got the view, that was
but it went south. I don't even remember what happened, but it went south for her. I don't know why it went south. Why did it go south for her?
I think it just ran its course. Like a lot of shows, I think it's just, you know, and like I've been saying, Ellen was a terrible person. I don't know Ellen. I've never met her. The show was on the air for a long time. It kind of probably just ran its course, you know. I mean,
well,
again, I don't know Ellen.
I know a lot of hairdressers that got fired. I know a lot of people that got fired from. Yeah, a lot of people.
I know. I didn't know. I don't
know. How was, and a lot of writers. How was Rosie to the staff?
Good. I had no issues. I mean, she was always, you know. It's funny. She wasn't involved with the staff that much. You know, there was difficulty with directors. That I will say. You know, but she knew what she wanted, and she wasn't wrong. Mm-hmm. You know, if you say, this is what I want, this is what I need. Mm-hmm. You know, it would be different if you have somebody who has no idea what they're talking about, barking out orders. Rosie knew camera, she knew everything. But you know, she deal with the writers primarily. You know, and the rest of the people, they're doing their jobs. Just you know, someone has segment 1. Who's the segment producer for segment 1? And that's who she'll focus with the, you know, it's
right.
It's like, you know, friends of mine, they say, geez, does Letterman write his own material? And I'm thinking, with what time do you see this happening? When is he going to do that?
Speaking of that, you know, Adrian was actually responsible for Gabe getting Letterman because they were on a gig together and he was everybody faxed jokes and he had been faxing to Politically Incorrect and he got what is it called when you get, when they hire you to be on Retainer. He was on Retainer. Yes, he was on Retainer for Politically Incorrect, and then he got a job on Political. But then Bill got canned anyway. But anyway, so when he was on a gig with Adrian, he had done Politically Incorrect, and she said, "Well, let me talk to Bill about you," and she did. And then it just so happened that Bill decided to write a book and leave his gig as head monologue. So Gabe started faxing and then he got on Retainer and then Bill decided to go write his book and he recommended Gabe and Gabe ended up taking his job for 4 years. But it was all because of that one night doing stand-up with Adrian.
Isn't it amazing how this works?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, you know, the night I spent with Rob Lowe in a hotel,
oh my Lord.
I just want to drop that in there as a joke.
So Larry, yes. so talk about Barry. You've been with Barry for
For
like
30 years.
30 years. Okay, so what is that like? How often are you writing? Are you writing material every night?
No, it's not. It's morphed into a lot more than that.
What is it?
Kind of his, I'd say, sounding board, creative. He's always had like a creative team with him.
Okay.
And over time, people have left or passed on or whatever. I know his show. I know his music. I know him cold.
Did you know him like that before? Well,
I knew all the music. I was a big Barry Manilow fan. The day I met him, when I got to the house, he said, "Are you familiar with my music?" I said, "I can sing everything badly. What do you want to hear?" He was like my favorite singer, so I knew all of it. And when he said, "Do you know this song?" It's like, "Yeah." So, and so I watched him a little, and they brought me on the road. So I think the first gig I went with him on was the Desert Inn.
What did he say to you? What did you think the gig was when you I mean, did you think you're going to write jokes? What did you?
I do. I was in the beginning. I was starting to just write jokes for the act.
Okay.
But over time, it's become so much. It's hard to describe. I'm kind of his creative eyes on the floor. Because I have no musical aptitude at all, and I don't. I can't read music. I can't sing. I don't understand the difference between a high C and an F minor. I don't know any of it. I have no idea what they're talking about. But like, remember Fred Silverman was the head of ABC TV,
sure,
and he kept putting hits on the air. He knew nothing about anything, but he was the audience member who knew what they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an audience member who obviously has a skill set here. Yes. But I see what they see.
Right.
I don't see it through the jaded eyes of a musician or a producer. I say that doesn't work, and you tell me why, and I'll say this is why I don't think that works, and this would be better.
So you're even talking about music decisions as well.
Yeah, but again, everything I do with him, I can't tell you what a privilege this has been to work with him. I mean, he's become one of my best friends, and he's just great. He's just great, and he's as good. The amazing thing is, I mean, they're honoring him at Carnegie Hall on May 1st in this big thing with the New York City Pops. It's a huge event.
I saw, is Betty Buckley singing?
Betty Buckley is going to be, yeah, and a whole bunch of Charo's coming in to sing Copacabana. It's going to be great. But here's a guy who literally lives and breathes music. Mm-hmm. That's all. I'm telling you, it's like he has no outside interest. This is kind of what he does. It's the way his brain works. And when you see that, it's like comedy people. Our brain works a different way. You know?
Well, don't include me in that because I'm not one. No, I mean, no.
You know what I mean? You know.
Yes, I know what you mean.
You know, so
I know what you mean.
So I can have a good time at a funeral. In fact, I try
to. So you, I get it. I get it. I get it. You just know. You have good instinct. You have good instincts. You have a good eye. You have a sense for what's going on.
Well,
and he trusts you.
Yeah, I've got it. It's like you said, I've got your back.
Mm-hmm.
I got your back.
Mm-hmm.
And we think alike comedically. Because when we're writing together, and we write together, it's not like I'm sending stuff. We'll go back and forth like I'm talking to you. And I'll say something, and he'll say something, and I'll say something, he'll say something, and we got it.
Can you give us a Barry Manilow joke?
No, I can't.
Okay.
You have to come see the show.
Okay, I want to. Melanie Taylor, my friend Melanie's in.
Oh, I love Melanie.
That's so cool.
How do you know Melanie?
I know Melanie because Terry played in my living room, and so that's how I. Yes, her husband Terry.
Why did he sing in your living room?
Because I used to have shows in my living room until COVID, and everybody sang in my living room. Yeah, the monkeys and the turtles. Yeah, everybody sang in my living room.
Flo and Eddie?
Yes, Flo.
Yeah. Is Eddie gone?
No, they're both still with us. But Howard Kalin, who was the voice of the turtles, yes, he sang in my living room. Yes, and so Earth, Wind, and Fire played in my living room. Don't ask, and it was crazy.
All three of them. just fire.
It was kind of like that, Larry Dunn. But anyway, so Terry and Melanie came to my living room, but she's wonderful.
She's great, beyond talented, and they're the two of the greatest people.
They absolutely are. They're a
Terry's
fabulous
music is
couple.
wonderful, and I try to see them when I can. They're great.
So your life now, do you go to meetings still?
You bet. You bet. I go to meetings all the time.
Do you go to live meetings? Because I do everything on Zoom.
No, I started when I got out here because out here, everybody who's going to die is going to die already. They're just old. No, I have a couple of home groups I go to here, and I have a lot of friends here who, keep me on the straight and narrow, sober path.
I'm gonna have to check with you because I know a few men live there who meeting, and we'll see if they maybe
all right.
Yeah.
No, but it's I've always kind of followed ever since I got sober. I followed my sobriety. It's like after Joy's show ended, I went back to literally to Laguna Niguel in Orange County as opposed to LA because that's where I had been living and that's where my meetings were and that's where my posse was. So I went back to Orange County right away. The minute the show was over, I just went right back home to my safety net. That's kind of how I do it,
And so did the people you go to Palm Springs, you said you have friends in Palm Springs.
Yep.
Is your posse sober for the most part?
Yeah, but just by chance, it's not like I seek out people who don't, just by the dint of my life, most of the people I'm in contact with. And again, at a certain age, I mean, you don't meet a lot of old junkies because they don't live that long. You don't see some meth head on the corner, like, they're long gone. So most people, at a certain age, if you're still alive and you're not an alcoholic, you're just having cocktails, you're just an old queen having cocktails. Have a good night. It's just.
Oh my God! So Larry, the thing that I had in my living room was it was basically a literary salon. Is how it started. I had writers.
Fantastic.
So a lot of writers. So like Carl Reiner came with his book and Gary Marshall.
I saw that picture. My God.
I know, it was crazy. So how did this book writing thing? Because that's like I wrote a book and I had no training and no skill.
How did that? I was going to ask you, how did you come up with that idea to do that? That's so brilliant.
Actually, it happened because Gabe lost his gig at Letterman after 9/11, and it changed our life so much that I started writing a rant. And he said, you might want to keep writing, and it all started from a rant. So how did you know? Are you trained to write books? Because I was not trained.
No, I mean, I have a degree in journalism, but no, I'm not trained.
Well, a degree in journalism. Where'd you go to school?
University of Buffalo.
Okay, that's a pretty big thing, a degree in journalism. So you were already writing.
I knew words. I had a lot of words.
So how did the first book happen? Was the first collaboration with Joan? How did it happen?
No, the first thing I did, and I don't know how it came to be, was believe it or not, an illustrated parody about Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky that I wrote with Judith Regan, the publisher.
Wow. I just went to the Ivy for lunch on Friday for the first time in 30 years. And the last time I was there, Monica Lewinsky was there. That's just weird. All right, wait, really? So
did she purge or did she swallow?
She was sitting behind Callista Flockhart. I swear to God, you can't write this. And it was,
Wait, one woman who only swallows and one woman who doesn't swallow anything.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh my God. So wait, tell me about this book. What was this?
I can't remember the name of it. It was the real story. There was a famous illustrator, Bill Plimpton, illustrated this book. It was right after the Clinton Lewinsky thing.
But how did you get
I don't know. I got a call from Judith Regan. I don't know.
And how did she know to call? Judith Regan was huge.
I don't know. Okay. The first celebrity I ever wrote with or for was Peter Allen.
Wow.
And I have no idea how he got my name. I was literally on the Upper East Side, or somewhere in the early 80s, mid 80s. And I got a message at answering machines. And it was, hi, Larry, this is Peter Allen, call me. Oh, okay. So I called him. He wanted some material for his act.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell us some more fun people that you did that for.
Oh boy. Well, one of the things I'm actually proud of is I've done some work with Jane Fonda, which is
I heard you mention that. What did you do with Jane?
A couple of things. She called me once out of the blue.
How did she call you once?
she probably got my name from Rosie. I don't know.
Okay.
She was living in Atlanta. She was no longer married to Ted Turner, but they were still friends.
Mm-hmm.
And she does a big charity thing every year to raise money for one of the foundations she's on. And they decided one year they're going to roast her.
Mm-hmm.
And she did somebody who could write a roast, who's funny but not mean. So I get a phone call. I mean, I still have the message. I still, it's a, hey, Larry, it's Jane Fonda. Give me a, so I flew down to Atlanta and wrote this, and it was a lot of heavy hitters. I mean, it was, Debbie Reynolds and Carrie Fisher and Ted Turner. It was a lot. It was a big deal. I'm singing. I can't hear you.
Sorry, I accidentally hit the thing. Talk about funny. Debbie Reynolds, maybe one of the funniest women.
She was really funny.
She was filthy and funny.
That.
Oh my God.
Did you ever work with her?
I didn't, but I was at a book fair and she was talking to me and I was crying. She was so funny. And filthy. She was
filthy. Potty mouth. Dirty, dirty, dirty. Dirty girl.
So you're doing this thing for Jane and all these like incredible people.
Right. And here's how great Jane was. It's like she's the real deal. She drives a Prius. And she says, well, tomorrow night, the event was like 3 nights later. She goes, I'm going to go to the Braves game. Do you want to go? I'm going with my daughter, my son, or my grandkids. I go, sure. She picks me up to the hotel in a Prius.
I love it.
We drive.
She's driving herself?
Yeah. We're going to meet. We stopped and picked up her daughter and granddaughter. And met her son at the stadium. We get to the back gate of Turner Field. And she rolls on and she goes, hi, I used to be married to Mr. Turner. You could probably have my name on the list. That humble. And they go,
wow.
So she has like 6 seats right next to the dugout.
Right.
So all of a sudden, I'm sitting with Vanessa's kids, and Chipper Jones comes over and he's talking to her, and it's like Dale Murphy and all these Hall of Famers. I was like, oh,
right.
God. But we had a great time. And every now and then, we're still in touch. Right? I worked on something with she and Lily last year, and we're in touch, and I work every now and then. I'll do something for her. But she's so great and so kind and so nice and so smart and really funny.
Is she?
She's great.
See, now I wouldn't think that. I would think she takes herself kind of seriously. I'm happy to hear that.
She's an absolute doll.
I'm happy to hear
Me
that.
too. One of those people they seem like they're bigger than life because of the world they've created.
Yeah.
Right. That I think we're sitting here talking like on a not on a program note, but on a spiritual human level. Mm-hmm. The best part of all of this that we do, I have gotten to meet and know some of the greatest people in the world. And I'm not just the people who are famous. I'm just people. I've worked with so many just writers and decent, kind people. It's like really lucky. I mean, for someone who had no goals and no ambition, it's turned out all right.
Did your mom get to see you have success?
Well, she came to my stand-up show one night. She was drunk and wet herself in the middle of the audience and had to go home. So technically, yes. Technically, yes. I
mean, did she get to meet Joan Rivers?
No, she was long. No, no, none of them did. Mm-hmm. My friends have. My friends will occasionally come to the show, see Barry or whatever. They come to meet Joan. But I try, I always try to be respectful of the people that because I guess you're the same in a way in that I tend to become friends with the people I work with a lot.
Absolutely.
You develop that kind of a relationship, and I don't want to take advantage of it in any way, shape, or form. I kind of respect other people's space.
It's people after Paul Williams did my show last week, like 10 guys, he's the greatest guy, and he's one of us, and he's very out there. He's very outspoken about it. And about 10 different guys wrote me and said, would you introduce me to Paul Williams? And it's like, I don't do that. I don't take it, I don't put, but it just so happened Paul was coming to my house for dinner the next night. And I said, this guy wrote me, and Paul's so nice. He said, forward me the thing and I'll talk to him. So that guy got lucky. And it just happened that way. But I don't do that kind of thing because I don't take advantage of the friendships. And that's why they stay friendships. That's why people that I work with become friends, because don't take advantage of those situations. But Larry, you have, I was going to tell you a little about Joan with me. Somebody gave me her number when I had my literary salon, I used to do it bi-coastally. Susie Essman did it in New York, and love Susie. And I wanted Joan to do it. Your book with her came out. I don't know. It was about, I don't know, more than that. 7, 8 years ago, 9 years ago.
First one was I Hate Everyone Starting With Me.
And what year was that?
2013.
Okay, so that's when it was. And
yeah.
so, or no, wait, what year did Joan die?
2014. No, that had come up before. No, Joan died in 2014. So Diary of a Mad Diva came out in 2013.
Okay, so it was the last book. It was the one before, and somebody gave me her number. I called. She picks up the phone. I don't expect she's going to pick up the phone. And I'm and I said, I have this little thing, and people come to my. And she was lovely, and she said, yes, I will do that. And by the time I called her, it was like a month later, she was gone. Mm. And but she was like, yeah, she was like, okay,
she would.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I've never met anyone who enjoyed being famous more.
Oh, do you know? You must know all the inside stories and all the shit with Johnny and with all that crap that went down.
I only know her side of the story. I never met Johnny, so I know what she said. And
what can you tell us of what she said?
There's still some question about what happened. Fox offered them a series.
Right.
And there was apparently, which there's actually a play being developed now called Joan, written by Danny Goldstein, that I'm kind of serving as a punch-up guy on.
Wow.
Through Mills Entertainment. It's a play. And there was a list when Johnny, remember he had gone out like 3 days a week?
Mm-hmm, sure.
Right. And they were looking to replace him. Even though he's Johnny Carson, they're looking to replace him. And there was a list of possible replacements. And Joan, who was his permanent guest host, her name was not on the list.
Wow.
So apparently either Edgar saw that or somehow, and they realized an offer came in, you're never going to get that job.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then he felt like she betrayed him.
He said he didn't know about the list, which of course I can't imagine that. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've never yet worked in any job in any capacity even when I was working for the architect, where the people at the top of the food chain had no idea what was going on.
Of course.
When it's a big decision, they know. It's like, I look at they say, well, Donald Trump didn't know. Of course he did. He signed checks. Of course he did. He's the head of the company. They're not selling shit without his okay. So.
Without his edict in his case.
Yeah, everything, you clear it. Nobody does anything on their own, or they don't have a job.
Exactly. Okay, so you've written all these books with all these amazing people. You're still writing. You're writing one with Melissa now. Did you say?
Yes, we're starting a new book. The working title is Guide for the Empty Nester, because our son's away at college, and it's funny.
And done that.
You know what it is. Then we'll talk to you. I guarantee I'll be talking.
So now wait. So. Okay, so this is a collaborative process. You do about 50-50 with Melissa.
Yes.
Are you ever in the same room? Is everything done? You are.
Yeah, well, we'll normally get on the phone for like 2 hours at a time.
Right.
And we'll go back and forth, and we'll go back and forth, and we'll write it all down, type it all out. And then we'll reconnect. I'll write something, she'll write something, we'll get back on the phone. And then I'll usually go out to the house for a day.
Okay, so now I want to know when Larry Amoros is writing.
Well, I'm working on a book I'm working on something myself, but my agent has no interest in it. So nothing, zero.
Isn't that the way?
Yeah, he goes, I don't think I can. I'm not famous, so if I attach somebody's name to it, I write what I like to think of as. See, you read a novel. I can't do that.
It's a fictionalized memoir. It's
I know, but it's
memoir, basically. Yeah.
Right, but I can't. I write essays.
Right.
My goal is I only write things you can read on the toilet. You can read a chapter, flush, and go back to your television. That's all it's about. So I write essays. So this is basically called Musings of a Sourpuss.
I love it.
I'm working on that on my own time, and and I'll see when I get done with all the other stuff where it goes. But I write every week. I write something, write another essay about whatever's bothering me at that moment.
Did you ever? I used to do that for the Huffington Post. Did you write stuff for the?
I started writing. Amy Wagner, who's now on MSNBC, Alex Wagner, who's on MSNBC, was in charge of something, and I wrote a very funny thing for them. I can't forget what it was. It was a political thing, and I started doing that, and then I got the job with Joy, but that's CNN. Even though HLN is a subsidiary, so I wasn't allowed to do it. It's contractual.
Right.
Well, when you go to all these people who keep saying, that, oh, CNN, it's rigged. It's not. I worked there. They vet everything. Anything you write that's political, or they see as a conflict of interest with the news department, you can't do. Joy was entertainment, but there were parameters.
I see.
I couldn't write for the Huffington Post. I couldn't do that. I couldn't do while I was doing that.
I see.
So I couldn't do it.
Well, I sure look forward to the musings of a what? Wait,
musings of a sourpuss. What's your next thing? What are you doing next? We've heard about me.
No,
what's not going on, Vicki? Tell me.
The thing is, for me, Larry, I love doing this.
You're great at
it. Thank you. I don't make shit. I get annoyed by Facebook. They take down my shows, and I just keep doing it anyway.
Well, what do we do about that? That's not okay.
It sucks so bad, but actually, I'm actually going to write a column. I used to write a lot of columns. I haven't written a column in a long time, and I'm itching. I need to. I don't know where I'm going to put it because none of the editors I used to work with are around anymore.
But a Medium.
Medium.
It's a great Medium.
I know of it. I've never published there.
No, but it's a great site for writers.
I have to look. I have one in my brain. So I think I have to do it. I've been threatening for a long time. So I had a lot of fun and I did. It was good for me when I did it for a few years. It was good.
We'll go back to it. You have time.
Yeah. No shit.
By the way, does my face look like gigantic and red?
No.
I'm looking in this feed, and all of a sudden I look like I belong in a circus.
Do not. You look handsome and fabulous. All right. So listen, I want to come out to Palm Springs. I want to go out to lunch with you. I want to
anytime you let me know.
And we're definitely, my boyfriend is a composer and TV composer and everything. And yeah, he wrote the theme to The West Wing and won an Emmy, and he wrote hundreds of compositions. Yeah. So anyway, we're going to come. I want us to come and see Barry Manilow. He's also friends with Melanie and Terry. We're going to come. We got to come to a Barry concert. We have to do it.
Well, I mean, he's in Vegas all the time now.
Yeah, we're going to come. We're going to come to Vegas. We're going to come to
let me know, or let Melanie know. And you must.
Absolutely.
We'll eat at the Pepper Mill. We'll have to eat at the Pepper Mill.
What's the Pepper Mill?
Oh my God. It is a 24-hour diner. Yes. It is the cheesiest, most fabulous place in Las Vegas. It's like all the women who are too old to be showgirls now wait tables there. They're 80, their tits are on the floor, but they're wearing glitter and huge portions, cheap slot machine. It's fantastic.
My God, that's where I want to go. Okay.
We'll have to go. Okay.
I'm contacting you. We're coming to Vegas. Larry, this has been so much fun for me that I can't. My cheeks hurt from smiling and laughing.
Me too. This is great. I'm so glad. Thank you for asking me to do this. It was a delight, a joy.
I really, no Joy Behar, but but I absolutely adore you. You are just hysterical, but your essence is so warm and beautiful. You're just a beautiful soul. I feel it all.
Thanks. I'm gonna go let the kids out of the trunk of the car now.
I'm gonna be in touch soon. We're gonna do